In the late 1800s, England was struggling due to scarcity of farmland because there was a large deposit of coal. Industries used the coal and innovations such as manufacturing, agriculture, and transportation to revolutionize the country. Eventually, the innovation spread across Europe and found its way into the United States. Before the Haymarket riots, people were moving into Chicago to get jobs in the factories, therefore causing an influx in population. Meanwhile, the local people of Chicago would put their all in their work. They would do all they could in order to maintain their jobs and maintain their stable life. In the 1800s, there was unemployment because the employees were not protected with the labor union against the companies. For example, the families in Chicago would rather work more hours and get paid less because if they would have rejected the change, they would have just been fired for no apparent reason and have gotten replaced by immigrants looking for jobs. But as time went on, the people of Chicago were discontented of listening to the employers and living in terror of losing their jobs. The Haymarket riot in 1886 impacted labor relationships with the industry owners. Eventually, the company owners would have fired many workers, which not only caused a fracture in their relationship, but also caused many families in Chicago economic problems, which led to leaving their children alone in search for jobs. The company owners fired people that were involved with the labor union, and in the long run, the company owners hired the people that were not engaged with the labor union, under the protection of the police in order to keep control of their company. The nation had already established the 8-hour working system, but was not enforced upon in this time period. The employees went on strike against their own companies that had not gone through with the 8-hour working system. Eventually, society split into small contingents of wealthy factory owners and a vast majority of poor factory workers. The protesters decided to protest against the companies because they were enraged. The destruction of the police station and loss of lives in the Haymarket Square was caused because the police wanted to disperse the people. The people started to become violent because the days before they had brutally beaten people, which was the start of the Haymarket riot. The bombing, ushered in a period of intense political repression, had created an atmosphere of fear and hatred through the area that prevailed for decades. The people did not trust each other as much as they did before. In the workshop floor, organizing an occasional foray into politics threatened to undermine managerial authority and the sanctity of the market, as did their demands for municipal employment during economic demands for employment caused more people to live in horrible environments. The foray into politics made authority more difficult than they already are, causing a deeper tear in the relationship of the employers and the employees. On May 4th, 1886, rioters went on strike against the labor owners who did not enforce the 8-hour movement that gave labor workers a set time on how many hours they would work. 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, 8 hours for what we will, as the rioters would have written on their signs and chanted. The Haymarket riot impacted labor relationships with the industry owners. The Haymarket riot all started with the bombing at a police station, where 7 people were killed and over 100 police and civilians were injured. Many of the rioters that were injured did not receive medical attention because they were afraid of being arrested for rioting against the police. The police have captured and arrested 8 men who were believed to be the rioters who had thrown the bomb at the police line. 4 of the 8 men who were captured were tried and were hung later on. One of the 8 had committed suicide in jail a couple days before their hanging. Later on, after the riots, they had found out that the 8 men were unfairly tried and were not guilty of throwing the bomb. This became the biggest legal sham in American history. This was the start of differences in the relationship between the industry owners and the workers. As it played out, people trusted each other less and just were not fond of each other. The foray into politics that resulted from this as well put holes in the relationships. After the Haymarket riot, the Union was crumbling down little by little, and a new union was springing up that were controlled by skilled and unskilled workers. This union was like the last union, but was renamed the American Federation of Labor, or the AFL, because they wanted to show the people they would make better changes, but still wanted the laws they had already established. In the end, the Haymarket riot impacted labor relationships with the industry owners. It impacted it such ways that since the organizations were not helping in accomplishing more of the rights of the laborers wanted, they ended up involving violence and anarchy, and which created a path of greeting diplomacy between the employers and employees. The Haymarket preceded the fact that a worker could not stand up to a factory and ask for sanitary and safe rights. That is what began the drifting of the relationships between a worker and a factory owner. Many unions established rights in the workshops of the laborers and helped open and peace debates between the two pages. These debates before May 1st, 1886 were supposed to be a result of the 8-hour system being acted. Since the factory owners did not take this statement seriously, they had no care for the strike. The laborers who said they would do it ended up dangerously violent situations and corner houses of Congress tent. Therefore, lives were greatly impacted, some negatively because there was a loss of trust between employees and employers, but also possibly because now there is a May Day in which workers get observed for doing what they gives them a meaningful life to sustain their families. The Haymarket also strengthened resistance to the American labor movement, as trade union activities continued showed growth and variety.